G'day, Andrew here again from Guitar Street, and thanks so much for tuning in to what is the first episode of Love Fuzz. It's another rescue. This one is definitely a rescue. Hopefully at the end of this we will have a Kurt Cobain Signature Mustang inspired guitar. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to what is probably, it definitely is the biggest basket case I've ever had. And that's saying something. If you've ever watched any of my videos before, Let There Be Rust was the rustiest SG on earth. We had Spadehead, the Yamaha SB55 bass. Some punk rocker had covered that bass in black house paint and it was just atrocious. But this one is something special altogether, and it's part of a much bigger project that I'll get into in a second. So here it is. Welcome to the frame, Mr. Tomson Splendor. So this is a 1970s Japanese Fender Mustang competition. Look at those stripes. It's a competition Mustang copy. Tomson was never the best Japanese guitar brand. There are a lot better. Telltale signs on this one. Obviously, it's a plywood body for a start. The hardware is pretty garbage originally. Look, they look the business. They're fantastic. So look, I picked it up for $20. You know, it was $20 US on the Japanese auctions, and when you listen to what this project's going to entail, you'll understand why I'm doing this. Okay, so let me run you through this project. It's actually a collaboration with two of my other mates, so it's kind of a three-way collaboration. One of my mates, Rob, you may have heard me mention him before. He's a producer. He does these musical studies on bands and artists where he breaks down the chord progressions, the modes, the tone that different artists get, and then he writes a song that is inspired by that band. So over the last few months, he's been doing a Nirvana-inspired song after doing a study of Kurt Cobain's writing. My other mate, Jeff, is a singer in a band and also an awesome guitarist. He and I used to be in a band when I was about 13 or 14. That was Angry Me, a long time ago. So we've all known each other for a long time. Jeff is obsessed with Nirvana. He always has been since the 90s. And he can crank out a really good Kurt Cobain voice. So we're all going to come together. I'm going to build a guitar, which is going to be a Kurt Cobain Signature Series Fender Mustang copy. I stress the word copy here. It's inspired by that guitar, but I'm going to run through the specs in a second and you'll understand why I think I'm going to be able to hit this tone really well. We're going to take the song that Rob has written after his study and Jeff is going to perform it. We're going to make a music video and also perform it live. Hopefully if Sydney ever gets out of lockdown and live gigs are allowed again. There's a deadline December 5th, I believe it is, 2021, just putting a timestamp on this. So what can you expect from this series? Look, just like Meet Gus, I'm going to commit an hour a week to this. This one should be a much faster build for me. It's really just paint, replacing all the parts, fretwork. Actually, let's run through it. Let's have a look at this thing. First up, I have no idea what these blisters are. They actually made my skin crawl when I first picked up the guitar. They're kind of like warts. I've seen them before. I think it's got something to do with moisture getting underneath the poly finish, and they kind of send up these big bubbles as it reacts. It's disgusting. It makes me think of leprosy or some sort of skin disease, and it makes me feel really dirty to touch them, and they scratch off pretty easy. So obviously getting rid of the paint on this thing. As you can see here, there is also an issue with this body. It's coming apart. It will be a multi-piece body. How many pieces, I'm yet to know. But as you can see, some of the ply is coming apart. So look, this thing's going to get stripped down. We're going to glue it back together and clamp it. Then I'm going to have to bog any bits that are basically big dents. I'm going to have to smooth this whole thing over. Every piece of hardware on this has pretty much got to go. This is without doubt the driest fretboard I've ever seen. I've seen a few nasty fretboards. I'm going to rip the frets out of this thing as well, give it a full radius sand, bring this neck back to life. I've had a lot of these guitars, I've had a lot of Tomsons in the past, and while they are made of chipboard, the necks are usually really strong. This one is straight as an arrow. The tuners, they're going to have to go as well. They're rusted right through. What I'm looking to do is replace every single one of these components with either a Fender or a Squier or a custom piece. So stay tuned on that one. Electronics wise is where this thing is really going to come together. If any of you have been following my Tone Library series, you'll know that I've been picking up a lot of vintage humbuckers. And because of that, I've actually got some 1980s and 1990s Seymour Duncan JBs. The current Fender Signature model sports a Seymour Duncan JB, but we're going to go a bit more true to spec by using a late 80s JB in the bridge. It's going to sound epic, and I'm going to wire it up just like Fender has the Signature model. Obviously, I've got to strip the paint on this thing, so color-wise, I've left it up to Jeff. He loves competition burgundy. Who doesn't? It's a pretty hard color to match, so that's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to basically get Lake Placid blue and spray some tinted clear over the top to get that green. I'm really not too sure. There's not much information on the actual color codes. I'm pretty sure Fender was just sending them to automotive repair shops at the time to get the paint mixes right. So it's going to be a bit hit and miss, but Jefferson really wants that competition burgundy. Kurt famously plays a competition burgundy Mustang in the Smells Like Teen Spirit video. It's probably the one guitar that every single one of us teenage kids in the 90s drooled over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a matching headstock as well. I'm going to spray the headstock and the body. We're going to do competition burgundy. Probably going to end up putting some Fender decals on this. I don't want to offend anyone, but this is for a mate. He does want this to look like a Fender. We're not trying to rip anything off here. Obviously, I'm not trying to infringe on any copyrights or pass this off as a Fender. It is just a tribute. So join me next time as I start pulling this thing apart. I'm really hoping that none of the bolts are rusted, because I've had a lot of issues in the past where bolts just snap clean off and you've got to then drill them out. These old Japanese copies can be a bit hit and miss, and this one looks like it's sat under someone's house for a long time. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, please follow me on Instagram at guitarstreet.co. Hit subscribe or visit the website guitarstreet.co. We've got a range of merch going up. Just released a new t-shirt for the Yamaha SG70 of the Tone Library, which we just finished. And I'll probably get something up pretty quick with this Mustang as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, please follow, subscribe, or purchase a t-shirt. And I'll see you next time. Remember, this is weekly, so I'll be updating every single week. Cheers.